This is a film about a visit to the fascinating huge seaside city of Rio de Janeiro, famed for its Copacabana and Ipanema beaches, huge Christ the Redeemer statue atop Mount Corcovado, and for the cable cars up to the top of Sugarloaf Mountain. Rio de Janeiro, founded in 1565 by the Portuguese, has a population of some 13.5 million in the greater metropolitan area. For the first-time visitor to Rio, the most impressive sight is the large and beautiful Christ the Redeemer statue high atop Mount Corcovado as it dominates the Rio skyline. The jets taking off from the airport make for an interesting sight as they seemingly pass right in front of the statue. It's a steep, windy drive up to see Christ the Redeemer statue, as it's located on the peak of the 700-meter or 2,300-foot high Corcovado Mountain. In Portuguese, the name Corcovado means hunchback. The statue was constructed between 1922 and 1931 after funding by Catholic groups that were motivated by what they perceived as the godlessness in society. The beautiful Art Deco statue of Christ the Redeemer with its open arms is a symbol of peace. From the base of the statue, there's a stunning view overlooking the city of Rio de Janeiro. The view is a wonderful introduction to the marvelous setting of Rio on the Atlantic Ocean bay named Guanabara. As the cities in the area are built up around Guanabara Bay, the best way to get a good view of the area is from a boat cruising the bay. The subway's women-only cars are to avoid sexual harassment of female riders. Passenger ferries to and from Niteroi are packed during rush hour. Guanabara Bay is a huge inlet of the Atlantic Ocean. The name Guanabara comes from the native Indian Tupi language, which is translated as the bosom of the sea. From Rio, we headed out for a cruise around the part of Guanabara Bay between the cities of Rio and Niteroi. We cruised past the beautiful Gothic Revival-style Fiscal Island Palace, which was completed in 1889 to house the Brazilian Customs Authority when the city was the capital of the Brazilian Empire. After its opening, the palace was the scene for the last ball offered by Brazil's imperial government just 6 days before the monarchy was overthrown by a military coup and replaced by the Republic of Brazil. Today, the palace houses a museum of cultural history maintained by the Brazilian Navy. The Rio de Janeiro Navy Arsenal is the main maintenance center and naval base of the Brazilian Navy. It's involved in the design, construction, and maintenance of ships and submarines. Fortunately, there were many ships tied up alongside the arsenal, so we got to see quite a few of the big Brazilian ships. We passed by the newly acquired Brazilian amphibious assault ship Atlantico, which had previously served with the Royal Navy as HMS Ocean. The aircraft carrier Sao Paulo, which previously served with the French Navy as the Foch, has been recently decommissioned. It was impressive to see the sailors mustered on deck of the old aircraft carrier. There was various ship maintenance activity underway at the arsenal. There were a number of German-designed Type 209 diesel-electric attack submarines at the arsenal, where they were built in the late 1990s. The Futuristic Museum of Tomorrow is a science museum that was opened prior to the 2016 Summer Olympics. Brazil exploits large oil fields located 250 kilometers or 160 miles off the coast of Rio de Janeiro. Ultra-deepwater drilling rigs are required as the field lies 7,000 meters or 25,000 feet below the ocean's surface. The 13-kilometer or 8-mile-long Rio-Niteroi bridge spans Guanabara Bay. The beautiful Brazilian Navy tall ship Cisne Branco, or White Swan, was in port. The old Portuguese colonial-era Gregota fort stands prominently on the shoreline of Niteroi. Niteroi is a city of 500,000 people that lies across the bay from Rio. It serves both as a residential suburb of Rio as well as a major industrial area in its own right. The city is connected to Rio both by a long bridge across the bay and by a constant stream of ferries crossing the bay. The name Niteroi comes from a Tupi Indian term meaning hidden water. Niteroi was founded in 1573 by the Tupi Indian chief Arariboia, making it the only Brazilian city to have been founded by a non-European. The main goal of visiting Niteroi was to see the impressive Niteroi Contemporary Art Museum. The walk from the ferry terminal to see the museum afforded views of many interesting scenes. The famous Niteroi Contemporary Art Museum is one of the city's main landmarks. It was designed by the famed Brazilian architect Oscar Niemeyer and was completed in 1996. The saucer-shaped modernist structure is evocative of a flying saucer. The museum is 16 meters or 53 feet high, and its cupola has a diameter of 50 meters or 164 feet. Since Portuguese colonial times, the entrance to Guanabara Bay has been guarded by a series of forts. The most interesting one is Tamandaré Fort, with its rotating cupola sporting huge guns. No visit to Rio would be complete without a stop at the renowned Ipanema and Copacabana beaches. The beach at Ipanema became known internationally with the popularity of the bossa nova jazz song, The Girl from Ipanema, which was a worldwide hit in the mid-60s and won a Grammy for Record of the Year in 1965. While there were many people on the beach, there were few in the water due to the dangerous currents. The man with the gunshot wound served as a reminder that Rio's crime rate is fairly high, including violent crime. At lunch, the endless offering of meat was controlled by yes or no tokens shown to the server. Rio's most famous beach is the world-renowned Copacabana Beach. This 4-kilometer or 2.2-mile long iconic beach is filled with energy and excitement, with vendors and restaurants lining the sand. The beach is alive with locals playing a variety of sports, but swimming is chancy due to the strong undertow. Fort Copacabana at the south end of the beach is a military base completed in 1914. To protect the harbor, it had 2 armored cupolas, one holding a pair of 305mm or 12-inch Krupp cannons, and the other a pair of 190 or 7.5-inch Krupp cannons. Next, we are off to see the famous Selarón Steps and the imaginative and colorful murals along Joaquim Silva Street. The Lapa arches form the impressive Carioca aqueduct that was built in 1750 to bring fresh water from the Carioca River to the people of Rio. The aqueduct was repurposed in 1896 to serve as a viaduct for a tram line to connect the center of Rio and the hilly Santa Teresa neighborhood. Joaquim Silva Street is in the heart of Lapa, which is an edgy neighborhood close to the center of Rio de Janeiro, and it's often regarded as the cradle of Bohemian Rio. Although it appears more than a little run down, the street is festooned with art painted with gay abandon and competing for your every attention. Lapa was Rio's musical heartbeat until the country's capital was switched from Rio to Brasilia in 1960, and the central neighborhoods like Lapa started to decline. The streets became notoriously unsafe. However, in recent years, the popularity of live music has grown to big proportions, and all of a sudden, the area was on the rise once more, and a number of the old houses have been renovated. Near the Selarón Steps, innovative street artists have painted huge maps on a wall where tourists can pay to have their names painted on it in real time by the artists. The Selarón Steps also attract jewelry makers who sell their wares to the tourists who flock to see the steps. The Selarón Mosaic Steps project was begun in 1990 by Jorge Selarón, a painter and sculptor originally from Chile. He began renovating the dilapidated steps outside his home, but it soon became an all-consuming project to cover the 250 steps that rise up 125 meters. Over 2,000 tiles collected from over 60 countries around the world were used. The Santos Dumont Airport is located adjacent to downtown Rio de Janeiro, making for wonderful scenes of planes flying over the area, with mountains in the background, including Sugarloaf and Corcovado, with Christ the Redeemer atop it. The airport's location very close to the city center is quite convenient. However, the location is a problem because the very solid Sugarloaf Mountain stands on the direct glide path to the airport. This means that aircraft have to negotiate the mountainous terrain around the airport by banking steeply to avoid the mountains, which makes watching takeoff and landings very interesting. The Sugarloaf cable car takes passengers from the ground station to the magnificent view of Rio from the summit of Sugarloaf Mountain via an intermediate station atop the hill Morro da Urca. There are a couple of interesting monuments to events in Brazil's history that are unknown to most visitors. The cableway first opened in 1912 when it was only the third cableway to be built in the world. The first section of cableway ends at the intermediate station atop Morro da Urca, where passengers transfer to the second cableway for transfer up to the summit of Sugarloaf. The cableway was featured in the 1979 James Bond film Moonraker, when Bond fought Jaws atop a cable car. We timed our arrival at the summit to see the sun setting over Rio and were not disappointed. Our descent from the summit was after sundown, so Rio was ablaze with lights, and the result was a wonderful view. The illumination of Christ the Redeemer made it visible at night over the city, just as it was in the daytime. After decades of wanting to visit Rio, it certainly lived up to expectations, although the personal safety aspect when visiting is something to keep in mind.
Take me somewhere nice.